The Beijing deployed 2 aircraft carriers after the U.S. Navy fight China Navy in South China Sea. 2 Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy aircraft carriers are preparing to conduct a set of provocative war games in the contested South China Sea, near the Taiwan-claimed Pratas Islands, also known as the Dongsha Islands. The Chinese aircraft carriers Liaoning and Shandong were finishing up combat readiness training in the Bohai Bay of the Yellow Sea ahead of the planned deployment near the Taiwanese territorial claims, the Daily Mail reported. The Pratas or Dongsha Islands are a series of 3 atolls off the coast of China and lying to the southwest of Taiwan. The reports of China's planned aggressive moves near Taiwan come shortly after Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi claimed political forces in the U.S. are taking China's relations hostage and pushing our 2 countries to the brink of a new Cold War. The war games near the Pratas Islands also come amid Chinese calls to reunify with Taiwan, raising concerns among some observers that the war games are a ploy to capture the islands. The Japan-based Kyodo News reported on May that the People's Liberation Army is also planning to hold massive beach landing drills on the Chinese island province of Hainan in August, which could be used to simulate a beach landing on Taiwan's Pratas Islands. The South China Morning Post further reported comments by a military source familiar with the planning that an aircraft carrier strike group will pass through the Pratas Islands on its way to the exercise site to the southeast of Taiwan in the Philippine Sea. The exact path that the Chinese warships will transit and the location of their drills is not entirely clear. But the plan seems to deliberately put the Chinese ships in close proximity with Taiwanese territory. There are just 200 Taiwanese troops stationed on the Pratas, the military source told the South China Morning Post. So it doesn't make sense for the People's Liberation Army to deploy an aircraft carrier strike group to take such a small island. Lu Lishi, a former instructor at Taiwan's Naval Academy in Kaohsiung, told the Post that China may no longer see use in capturing the Pratas Islands because they have lost their strategic importance to Beijing. China has instead begun placing artificial islands in the South China Sea to serve as airstrips within the disputed region. Beijing has 3 3,000-meter airstrips on its man-made islands nearby, and they can each accommodate all kinds of military and civilian aircraft. Qi Liyi, a military observer based in Taipei, Taiwan, said China's landing drills and war games were more likely geared towards an overall plan of militarizing the South China Sea and expanding China's influence in the disputed region. A landing drill could be seen as preparation for an attack on Taiwan, but it is more to do with the People's Liberation Army building up its combat systems for any possible conflict in the South China Sea. The South China Sea remains a highly contested region in the U.S. Even before the coronavirus outbreak raised tensions between the U.S. and China and between China and Taiwan. On Tuesday, the United States Air Force B-1B bombers completed flights over the South China Sea as part of the United States' effort to maintain access to all airspaces where international law permits, such as the disputed region of the Pacific. The Chinese Communist Party is readying 2 new aircraft carriers for deployment off the coast of Taiwan that could lead to a military confrontation with the United States ships in the region, as the relationship between the 2 global powers has become strained by trade issues and the coronavirus pandemic, according to a report. The ships Liaoning and Shandong, part of the People's Liberation Army Navy, are conducting military readiness drills in the Yellow Sea but are expected to move into the South China Sea to practice island for invasion mock battles, CCP-controlled Global Times reported, noting Chinese President Xi Jinping's assertions of territorial control over most of the waterway and lack of respect for the sovereignty of countries in the region, like Taiwan, the risk of a military confrontation in the South China Sea. Involving the United States and China could rise significantly in the next 18 months. The Council on Foreign Relations said in a report issued last week. The think tank said the United States has a strong interest in stopping China from taking control over the South China Sea to keep the waterway open for navigation and secure international supply chains. The United States is also at risk of being drawn into a military conflict with China in this region as a result of the United States Defense Treaty obligations to at least one of the claimants to the contested territory, the Philippines. President Trump, who has accused Beijing of misleading the world on the coronavirus pandemic, has been sparring with Xi over China's trade policies, which he said are stacked against United States corporations. We could cut off the whole relationship with China, Trump told Fox Business earlier this month. Those comments led to Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi accusing the United States of pushing the two countries to the brink of a new Cold War. China has no intention to change, still less replace, the United States. It's time for the United States to give up its wishful thinking of changing China and stopping 1.4 billion people in their historic march toward modernization.